On October 17, 2016, I was doing makeup for a photo shoot at the Lent Mansion. The photographer, the key holder, and I arrived before dawn. There was no one in the mansion itself except for a guest in the bed and breakfast, and the person with the key was one of the models, so she was a friend of the owner who was getting an excellent favor granted. Although it was dark and empty, nothing creepy was going on whatsoever, and we went up to the second floor. The two photographers left me to begin the model, and they went to the studio to get more gear. The room gradually filled with sunlight to help along the ring light and the overhead pendant lights. There were two of these pendant lights dangling from chains under these beautiful ceiling medallions about 8 feet apart. With the march of time and progress over the decades, Limp is now overlooking Highway 55, so while we heard a lot of morning white noise like traffic and big trucks barreling down the highway, it was nothing unusual. An assistant and another model showed up, and then the photographers, and then another model, and then the office folk. Soon after the office folk, the downstairs dining room opened for lunch. It was broad sunny daylight, and the building was bustling with life. The middle model asked me what I knew of the history of the place. I told her I didn't know much for sure other than the publicized unalivings. I mentioned the theory about the child in the attic, whom I talked about in part 1, and how I'd heard the story on the radio a few times before, but I wasn't sure what details were true and what were fanciful. I said he had a rather rude nickname that it was rumored that he hated, but I told her if he'd hate it in life, I really didn't want to perpetuate it by saying it out loud. The photographer bought the group lunch between 12:30 and 1. I was almost done with my last model, and I was too warm to eat and pretty ready to go after being on my feet for that long, so I declined, knowing if I worked through lunch, I could leave a little sooner. The photographer's assistant and two models were eating at the table under the far pendant lamp, which was roughly about 8 feet from where I was standing under the other lamp, doing the face of the last model. The model I spoke to about the son in the attic asked the model who let us in about him. She said the owners had told her he wasn't real, it was just a story made up to titillate, and that he was not one of the official spirits that were in the place. She also repeatedly used the name he hates as she dismissed his existence. After a couple of minutes, I heard this continuous noise, and I really only noticed it in the background because I was busy doing my job. It sounded like a really large piece of machinery with a busted motor mount, like this loud metal rattling, and I ignored it. I figured it was a truck outside the loading dock or something. It went on, though, and right about the time I was thinking, dang, that truck is close, one of the models kind of exclaimed. I looked up, and the pendant light over my head was shaking hard, like someone was aggressively yanking on the cord of the chain above it. And we were trying to figure out a practical reason for what could be making it shake, right? We're like, can they land helicopters on the roof here? No, they cannot land helicopters on the roof here. But otherwise, we were chatting really loudly because it was making a lot of noise. And one of the models pointed out nothing else in the room was shaking. No photos, no furniture, not even the other lamp. Eventually, the lamp stopped moving. But yeah, 7 witnesses, broad daylight.